The geography and territory of Kazakhstan is so extensive that in a rather short period of time you can get both winter and summer here. A few days ago, we shot in the south of the country, where it was plus 25 degrees Celsius, but today we arrived to one of the northern regions, where it was snowing in the morning. Hello, this is Terra Incognita project. My name is Anton Fedorov, and I start my journey in the Pavlodar region. The Pavlodar region, as an administrative territorial unit of Kazakhstan, was formed in 1938. But the history of this region began much earlier. Man began to explore these places in the Paleolithic era. Archaeologists have found remains of ancient Saka settlements on the banks of the Irtysh. Today, the Pavlodar region is one of the main industrial regions of Kazakhstan. Historically, one of the largest industrial and production complexes in the CIS has been formed here, which is engaged in the development of mineral and hydrocarbon raw materials. The administrative center of the Pavlodar region is the city of Pavlodar. In 2020, it will celebrate the 300th anniversary. The settlement appeared here along with a number of fortifications and fortresses, which were created to protect the eastern borders of the Russian Empire, when 300 years ago Kazakhstan was part of it, from attacks by nomadic peoples of neighboring countries. Initially, the area of this fortification was 50 by 50 square meters, and only 48 people served in it. Today, the territory of the city of Pavlodar exceeds 400 square kilometers, and the population has reached 350,000 people. Pavlodar stands on the bank of the Irtysh River, and its origin and development are connected with it. At the beginning of the 18th century, industrial salt mining began near the settlement on Karyakovskaya Lake. And at first, Pavlodar was called the village of Karyakovskaya, and it received the status of the city and its modern name in 1861. After 7 years, Pavlodar became the country center of the Semipalatinsk region, and 4 years later, the telegraph communication was conducted here. This building is the first post and telegraph office of Pavlodar. It was built at the end of the 19th century and today is an architectural monument of local importance. In general, Pavlodar is a city in which history is clearly felt. Architectural buildings, which are more than 100 years old, are preserved here. They create a certain aura of the city and complement the look of modern Pavlodar with elements of history. In the middle of the 19th century, Pavlodar began to flourish. Ship repair workshops were established in the city. The first mill was built. Growing wheat and baking bread in the city became one of the main industries of the local population. At the beginning of the last century, over 80 windmills were reared in Pavlodar with its environs. The central part of the city was built up with merchant houses, a shopping arcade, premises of grain trade, and industrial warehouses were closer to the pier.
From
the very first years of the appearance of the city in Pavlodar here, the class of merchants began to form, the bourgeoisie, The favorable geographical location of this locality helped to conduct active trade with neighboring regions and countries. Trading ferries went along the Irtysh. Industrial salt mining took place here. All this led to the rapid development and growth of Pavlodar. It was the entrepreneurial class that advocated changing the status of Pavlodar from the village to the city. This made it possible to move away from military fortifications and begin to build life based on production, industry, and agriculture. There is a record in archival sources that there were 10 handicraft factories and plants by 1904 in Pavlodar, while today there are about 5,000 enterprises of various forms of ownership in the region.
Ну а вот в этом здании жил человек, который вошел в историю Павлодара.
Well, there lived a man in this building who entered the history of Pavlodar. A merchant named Ohapkin built this house at the beginning of the 20th century. He was engaged in active industrial activity, agriculture, participated in the public life of Pavlodar, and judging by the appearance, design, and decoration of this house, one can say that merchant Ohapkin was by far not a poor man. The architecture of the house is interesting and impressive. The walls are decorated with bas-reliefs. On the roof are small towers that link open-work lattices. Until the 20s of the last century, an enterprising merchant leased building space to insurers and bankers. Then in the house, built in the spirit of modernity and merchant architecture, medical facilities began to be based, and they are still there. The historical part of the city has been preserved not far from the embankment of the Irtysh in Pavlodar. Apparently in the middle of the last century, it was here that the urban elite lived. This street probably was central, and judging by the architecture of the houses standing here, and was real decoration of the city. In the middle of the last century, Pavlodar experienced its fastest development. The transformation of the city into an industrial center is connected with the construction of the tractor and aluminum plants in it. It was the introduction of the aluminum plant that contributed to the appearance in Pavlodar of such a mode of transport as the tram. Trams are one of the peculiarities of Pavlodar. In many cities in Kazakhstan, this transport was not introduced at all or abandoned in recent years, but in Pavlodar, all tram routes are saved. And today, the length of the tram tracks in Pavlodar is 89 kilometers and is the longest in Kazakhstan. The first tram line was laid in Pavlodar in 1965. It began on the outskirts of the city and ended at the entrance to the aluminum plant. The length of the first tram line in Pavlodar was 11 kilometers. Today, this type of public transport is one of the attractions of the city, along with the amazing temples that adorn Pavlodar with their unique architecture. Kazakhstan is a multinational country. There are 130 different ethnic groups living here, and every nation has the opportunity to touch its culture, its sources, and of course, temples built in Kazakhstan are real works of art. The Annunciation Cathedral is striking in its scope out of all modern architectural monuments of Pavlodar. This Orthodox church was built in 1999. local architects decided to build a new cathedral by the model of one of the cathedrals of the Moscow Kremlin. The bells for it were cast in Moscow, 9 in all. The largest bell weighs more than a ton. A huge architectural rarity of the temple is a monolithic dome. A gilded cross above the dome is set at a height of 51 meters. Open-work vaults and arches of the temple, highly erected domes with golden crosses, elegant towers, and a bell tower make this building a unique architectural ensemble, striking in its luxury and beauty. The history of this temple began in 1990 when the decision to build it was taken. Local authorities allocated land for the future church, but the collapse of the Soviet Union and the difficult economic situation in the country forced the architects and engineers to suspend the construction of the cathedral. After 3 years, it would seem that the construction of the temple was resumed, but finding way only enough to lay the foundation on this site. The break lasted for almost 4 years, until local entrepreneurs and city residents decided to complete the construction of the cathedral on their own, and the real national construction began in Pavlodar. More than 50 large and small organizations, hundreds of people of various professions and specialties participated in the construction of the Annunciation Cathedral. Over 200 people worked at the same time on the temple construction. Dozens worked on the landscaping. With joint efforts, the cathedral was completed, and the first bells of the Annunciation Cathedral rang over Pavlodar in October of 1999.
Одним из самых ярких украшений Павлодара
One of the brightest ornaments of Pavlodar is the mosque Mashhur Jusupov. It is named after the famous Kazakh poet, researcher, historian, ethnographer, and oral poetry collector of the Kazakh people. After this man left the greatest cultural heritage, thanks to which he went down in history. This mosque is considered to be the most beautiful and majestic in Pavlodar. It can be seen from opposite corners of the city. The unique architectural creation delights residents and guests of Pavlodar. People just stop walking by this temple to admire its beauty. Light blue minarets aspiring to heaven and the elegant staircase of the mosque fascinate with their unique look. The mosque is crowned with blue shanarak on the dome. There is also a golden crescent. The height of the whole structure is 54 meters. The structure itself is made in the form of a star with 8 ends measuring 48 by 48 meters. The minarets reach a height of 63 meters. The total area of the temple is more than 7,000 square meters. At the same time, the mosque of Mashhur Jusupov can receive 1,500 believers. Its main feature is the crystal chandelier, Zumrad, which in Arabic means emerald. It is located in the main hall. This chandelier gives people the light of 434 light bulbs. The chandelier, by special order, was made by masters in Tashkent. The architectural form of the mosque itself resembles an open heart, open to the world and God. Well, it's time for me to move further, because this most picturesque place of Pavlodar region is ahead of me. So I'm heading to the south of Pavlodar region to tell you about one amazing place. Overcoming about 250 kilometers off the way, I got to a picturesque natural corner which is located on the outskirts of the central Kazakhstan low mountains. There is a place in the south of Pavlodar region that is known far beyond the borders of Kazakhstan. the Bayanaul National Natural Park. Amazingly beautiful natural landscapes are woven here with ancient legends and tales of the people. For several centuries, the history of the Kazakhs has been going on here, and this land keeps an amazing heritage of ancestors. The central Kazakhstan low-rise area was formed as a large mountainous part of the land in the upper Paleozoic. This part of the continent has experienced a long history of destruction and therefore currently has relatively small heights, from 400 to 1,200 meters above sea level. The Bayanaul National Natural Park located here is the pride of all of Kazakhstan. Bayanaul is one of the special protected natural territories of Kazakhstan. The park was founded in 1985, becoming the first national park in the country. The basis for its creation was the need to preserve and restore the natural flora and fauna of the Bayanaul Massif. The total area of the park exceeds 68,000 hectares. If you come to the Bayanaul National Natural Park, you definitely need to visit the Zhasibai Lake. This is a very picturesque place. The lake is located in a valley and is surrounded by mountain ranges from two sides. It received its name in honor of the famous Batar Zhasibai, who was killed in battle more than 250 years ago defending this land from invaders. The legend of Zhasibai says that in 1741, the Dzungars repeatedly tried to capture the Bayanaul steppes. They organized frequent raids on auls, stole livestock, plundered, burned the homes of civilians. Valiant warriors stood up to defend these lands. One detachment was headed by a Batar named Zhasibai. The horsemen gave each other an oath to stand for their native steppes to the last drop of blood and expel the enemy from their native land. The squad of Zhasibai defeated the invaders in one of the decisive battles, but the cunning enemies, having rested after fleeing, mounted their horses backwards to create the appearance of retreat. The wise Zhasibai unraveled their plan and ordered the soldiers to prepare for a new battle. This battle was the last one for the Batar. Zhasibai was struck by the arrow of one of the Dzungarian spies, who waited for the perfect moment to shoot at Zhasibai from a bow hiding in an ambush. The news of the death of brave warrior instantly spread throughout the steppe. Detachments of brave Batars arrived at the place where Zhasibai died and defeated the enemy. Batar was buried with special honors. The lake became named Zhasibai, as well as the pass where he kept the defense.
Недалеко от озера находится памятник, уже известному нам.
There is a monument not far from the lake of the already known to us Zhasibai Batar. He sits majestically on a mountain peak, as if symbolizing that he gave his life in the battle for these beautiful lands.
Пою за эти прекрасные земли. Для того, чтобы насладиться полноценным видом озера Жасыбай, необходимо подняться на одну из вершин, которая находится неподалеку. Подъем небольшой, займет примерно 15.
To enjoy the full view of the Zhasibai Lake, you need to climb one of the peaks, which is located nearby. The rise is small, it takes about 15-20 minutes, but then we can enjoy the beauty of the reservoir from a height of several hundred meters.
Чтобы открыть вам этот потрясающий вид. Чем выше поднимаюсь в горы, тем сложнее становится маршрут.
I have to climb that peak to open the stunning view to you. The higher I climb the mountains, the more difficult the route becomes. Now it's pretty cool, so the main task is not to find a slippery stone.
Не найти скользкий камень.
As they say, long way to Fuji starts with the first step. Take a look. Jasybai Lake is one of the most favorite vacation spots of Kazakhstani people. Modern rest houses, hotels and children's camps have been built on its shore. At the peak of the tourist season, there is barely a place to move. Because of the beauty of the surrounding nature, the locals call Jasybai the second Switzerland. Indeed, this place is amazing in beauty. I will definitely come back here, but in a warm season. In the meantime, I will continue to acquaint you with the sights of the Bayanol National Natural Park. There are many interesting, beautiful, and mysterious places ahead of me.
Баянаульский национальный природный парк.
The Bayanol National Natural Park is a real oasis in the boundless steppe. Nature has created amazing landscapes here that are striking in their beauty even in the cold season. There is one place in this park around which there are a large number of legends, and stone rocks have acquired forms that amaze the imagination, and now I'm going there.
В Баянаульском национальном природном парке создано необходимое для отдыха.
The infrastructure necessary for recreation has been created in the Bayanol National Natural Park. Sanatoriums and recreation centers were built around the lakes. There are many hiking routes along the park itself, where you can walk, enjoying the local beauty, which I'm busy doing right now.
Давайте остановимся.
Let's stop.
Вы слышите?
Do you hear?
Нет никакого постороннего шума.
There is an extraneous noise.
Тишина и единение с природой.
Silence and unity with nature.
Удивительное место.
What an amazing place. If you're tired of the lazy hotels, scorching sun, and the same type of natural landscape outside the window, you should go to the Bayanol National Natural Park. At first, it would seem the tourist tempted in exotic long-distance trips does not make much of an impression. But believe me, this picturesque place will start to amaze you long before you get here. First, you will admire the vast expanses of the great steppe outside the window. Then the landscape is replaced by low hills, and in half an hour, you find yourself in a real fairy tale. Of course, these squares cannot be called impregnable peaks, but this does not diminish their beauty and greatness in the least. These places are filled with special energy, as if there is some mystery of the universe here, as if you understand the principle of human existence. Open yourself to the world and realize the meaning of life. You can philosophize endlessly here. Well, I need to have time to tell you about the other beauties of Bayanol. And so I came to the place most visited by tourists in the park and immediately understood why it attracts tourists so much. Here it seems that some original artist worked on the uniqueness of these natural landscapes. These rocks are so picturesque that they could well become a location for the filming of science fiction films or tales about elves and trolls.
В Баянауле природа создала уникальные причудливые...
Nature has created unique, fanciful shapes in Bayanol. Pay attention to the stone which is located behind my back. If you look at its shape and profile, you can see the outlines of an aged woman who is clearly in a bad mood. The legend about this rock could be the plot of a fabulous film. Not far from this place is the village Toraigar. Standing by a picturesque lake, it has long been famous for its light, fast racers. But one day, a trouble happened. The horses began to disappear, no matter how the horsemen tried to protect them. Every night, the best horse disappeared from the herd. The council of elders gathered. The sages consented and decided that it was not without evil forces. The elders decided to strengthen the watch and catch the thief. And indeed, once the herdsmen guarding the herd saw how a terrible old woman named Mistan Kemper grabbed the best horse from the herd and carried it across the sky to her cave. The only thing that the horsemen managed to do was to find the lair of the terrible old woman. The next night, they decided to ambush this cave. When the moon rose, the botters saw how an evil old woman flew across the sky carrying the mount with her. The boys blocked her cave entrance. Of the last strength, the old woman scattered the gigots to the sides, but the first ray of light made her head turn into stone. So the legend explains the appearance of this mysterious rock here. And I have to move on. I have to look at another place. If you're traveling through the Bayanol National Natural Park on your own without a guide, then here are the route maps for you. Here are the main attractions of the park marked, as well as footpaths. The final point of my trip to the Bayanol National Natural Park was Lake Toraigar. On the way to this picturesque place, I saw a mighty rock called the Peak of the Brave, because everyone would want to challenge this small and a high rock. Indeed, from the side of the mountain, it seems very dangerous. Climbing it is allowed only in the summer and accompanied by instructors. Tourists are attracted by the amazing view of the Toraigar Lake, which opens from this cliff. And so I got to the final point of my route through the Bayanol Natural Park. This is Lake Toraigar. It is named after Batar who lived on its shores. He was famous for being very fair, refusing gifts from the rich and always helping ordinary shepherds. The legend of justice is expressed in the legend of Toraigar, and I think that, quite rightly, I need to say that Bayanol is a fantastic place where you will certainly not be bored. I will definitely come back here.
Мое путешествие по Павлодарской области заканчивается. Я рассказал вам далеко не всю историю.
My trip to the Pavlodar region is coming to an end. I didn't tell you the whole story of this amazing area. Come visit. You will definitely like it. It was another episode of the Terra Incognita project. My name is Anton Fedorov. See you next time.